It was a Sunday morning when I heard the unmistakable screech of tires and the violent crunch of metal against metal. I rushed out to see my front gate, a modest wooden one that had stood there for years. Lying twisted on the driveway, its hinges ripped from the brick posts. Behind it sat a shiny white SUV, its front bumper crumpled, the hood slightly smoking. Behind the wheel was the one person who had been my constant headache since moving into the Willow Oak subdivision, Karen Brooks, self-proclaimed enforcer of the HOA's unwritten rules. Karen didn't just think she ran the neighborhood, she believed she owned it. The moment she stepped out of her car, she didn't apologize. No, she had the audacity to glare at me, hands on her hips, and say, "Well, if you didn't block street access with this ridiculous gate, this wouldn't have happened." I blinked at her in disbelief, my morning coffee still in hand. "Karen," I said slowly, "my gate is on my property. You just drove through it." She scoffed, brushing imaginary dust off her designer blouse. "Your property should accommodate community needs. People need to park here during HOA events." Apparently, the HOA had planned some impromptu neighborhood gathering and Karen, running late, had decided my driveway was the most convenient spot. Instead of waiting for me to open the gate, she'd simply floored the accelerator. My temper rose, but I kept my voice steady. "You're paying for this." She smirked. Good luck proving anything. That smirk was all I needed to decide. If she wanted a war, she'd get one. What Karen didn't realize was that I wasn't about to replace my gate with another fragile wooden one. Oh no, this time I was going to make sure my property could withstand anything, especially a Karen with a lead foot. The next morning, I started calling contractors. If Karen thought she could bulldoze her way into my driveway again, she had another thing coming. I wanted steel, the kind of gate that could stop a truck. The first few contractors tried to steer me toward reasonable solutions, suggesting reinforced wood or aluminum, but I insisted on something military grade. Finally, I found a company that specialized in custom security gates for estates and government facilities. "We can do solid steel with internal bracing and hydraulic posts," the guy on the phone said. "It'll be heavy, but once it's in place, nothing's getting through." Perfect. I ordered the design, paying extra for rush installation. In the meantime, I put up a temporary chain barrier with bright yellow cones, just enough to block Karen's access without giving her another excuse to ram something. Predictably, that didn't go over well. 2 days later, I came home to find the cones shoved into my yard and the chain dragged to the side. My security cameras caught her SUV idling nearby, and though she didn't try to drive in this time, she smirked right into the lens as if daring me to do something. That was fine. She didn't know that the new gate was scheduled for installation the next morning. What she also didn't know was that I had asked the contractors to discreetly reinforce the brick posts with steel cores, just in case she decided to take a more destructive approach. I wasn't just rebuilding, I was fortifying. This wasn't a gate anymore, it was a wall with style. The way I saw it, if she wanted to keep pushing, I'd make sure she was pushing against the immovable. When the crew arrived at 7 a.m., I stood outside with a cup of coffee, watching the flatbed truck back into my driveway. The new gate was a thing of beauty, 8 feet tall, solid steel panels, with a powder-coated black finish that gleamed in the morning sun. The contractor grinned at me. "This is overkill for a suburban neighborhood," he said, "but it'll do the job." Installation took most of the day. First, they cut away the remnants of the old posts, then set the new steel-reinforced columns into fresh concrete. The gate itself was mounted on heavy-duty hinges with a locking hydraulic arm. The moment they swung it shut, the sound was like a vault door sealing, a deep, solid thunk that told me no SUV on Earth was getting past without serious damage. I also had them wire it into my security system with a remote opener and an automatic locking mechanism. By late afternoon, the job was done, and I stood there admiring the gleaming fortress in front of my driveway. Karen, of course, noticed. I caught her watching from across the street, arms crossed, her mouth twisted into a sour expression. She shouted something about neighborhood aesthetics and blocking community access, but I ignored her. I knew what she was thinking, that she had been beaten. But something in her eyes told me she wasn't done. The HOA had a meeting coming up in a week, and I knew she'd use it to stir trouble. I just didn't expect her to make her next move so soon, or so recklessly. It happened on a Friday evening. I had just returned from work when I heard a loud engine revving outside. Peeking through the blinds, I saw Karen's SUV at the curb, her window down as she glared at my gate. Then, in what I can only describe as the act of a lunatic, she floored it. The SUV lunged forward, tires screeching as it charged straight at the steel panels. The sound that followed was deafening, a metallic clang that rattled the windows, followed by the screech of bending metal, except it wasn't my gate bending. The reinforced steel didn't so much as flinch. Karen's SUV, on the other hand, crumpled like a soda can. The hood folded, the grille shattered, and the airbags exploded with a muffled pop. The vehicle came to a jarring stop, steam hissing from the radiator. I walked outside slowly, phone in hand, recording every second. Karen stumbled out, dazed and coughing from the airbag dust. "You're replacing that gate," she screeched, pointing at me. I didn't even hide my grin. "No, Karen. You're replacing your SUV. My gate's fine." Neighbors began to gather, some filming on their own phones. A few even clapped. The tow truck arrived before the cops, and when the officer took my statement, I showed him the footage from my security cameras. Karen tried to spin a story about me trapping her, but the video made it clear she had intentionally rammed the gate. She got a reckless driving citation, a bill for damages to my property even though there weren't any, and a hefty tow fee. The HOA meeting couldn't come soon enough. By the time the HOA meeting rolled around, the neighborhood was still buzzing about the gate versus SUV incident. I walked into the community center with my head high, armed with printed stills from my security footage, copies of the police report, and the repair bill for my gate that read $0.00. Karen was already there, wearing a neck brace for dramatic effect, sitting at the head table like she was presiding over a court case. The meeting started with mundane topics, landscaping budgets, holiday decorations, but it didn't take long before Karen brought up the issue of obstructive gates within the neighborhood. She painted herself as a victim, claiming my gate endangered residents by limiting parking access and that it violated some vague HOA aesthetic code. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and handed the board members a neat packet. "My gate is fully compliant with HOA guidelines," I said, pointing to the relevant section of the bylaws. "It is within my property line, professionally installed, and approved by county building codes." Then I played the security footage on the projector, showing her SUV smashing into it at full speed. Gasps rippled through the audience. "This wasn't an accident," I continued. "This was deliberate property destruction." Karen sputtered, red-faced, claiming the footage was out of context, but the board wasn't buying it. By the end of the meeting, the HOA voted to drop her complaint entirely, and in an unprecedented move, they issued her a warning for violating the community's safe driving rules. I walked out feeling like I had just won a championship match, but deep down, I knew Karen wasn't finished. People like her never are. Karen's next move was sneakier. Late one night, I caught her skulking near my driveway with a clipboard, flashlight in hand. I stepped outside, and she froze like a kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "Just documenting violations," she said sweetly, though her voice wavered. The next morning, I got an official-looking envelope on my doorstep, a notice of violation citing my gate as exceeding allowable security specifications. The problem for her was that it wasn't from the HOA. It was a fake letter she had printed herself. I called the HOA office directly, and they confirmed no such violation existed. I forwarded the letter to the police, who took a statement and added harassment to her growing list of complaints. By now, the neighborhood gossip was fully against her. People were tired of her constant meddling, and some even started calling her Gate Crasher Karen behind her back. I decided to end the drama once and for all. I installed 2 extra floodlights, an additional camera that covered the street approach, and a motion-triggered speaker that politely but firmly announced, "You are being recorded. This is private property." It was petty, sure, but I wanted to make it absolutely clear my driveway was off limits. The next few nights were blissfully quiet. No revving engines, no clipboard inspections. But I could feel the tension every time I saw her in passing, her eyes narrowing like she was trying to think of one last move that would give her the upper hand. She didn't know it yet, but the final act was about to be hers, and it wouldn't go how she hoped. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening. I was in my living room when I heard a familiar engine, the same SUV model as before, though this one was clearly new. My cameras caught Karen pulling up across the street, her headlights flashing like she was daring me to notice. She waited until no cars were passing, then turned into my driveway at an angle, clearly intending to nudge the gate open. Maybe she thought the wet pavement would make a difference. She was wrong. The moment her bumper touched the reinforced steel, there was a loud metallic thunk and her SUV stopped dead. This time, however, something gave way in her vehicle. The front axle snapped, dropping the SUV to the ground with a horrifying crunch. Steam billowed from under the hood, and the rain only made the scene look more pitiful. I walked outside with my umbrella, looked down at her through the fence bars, and said, "Karen, I told you, this gate is not your shortcut." Neighbors came out with phones again, filming every second. The tow truck driver, clearly familiar with her by now, chuckled as he winched her crippled SUV away. "Third time's the charm," he said to me quietly. The next day, Karen was served with a restraining order courtesy of my attorney. HOA members voted to remove her from the board entirely. And as for my gate, it stood there gleaming in the sun the following morning, not a scratch on it. From then on, Karen kept her distance, and whenever I walked past her house, I could feel her glare through the curtains. But I didn't care. In the battle of stubbornness, the steel gate had won. And in a way, so had I.